What's up guys, it's Kobe Black of Gods of Guns. We're here in my garage at my workbench. Today we're going to be breaking down my Glock 23. I'm going to do a total disassemble. That way I can show you each of the different parts, some of the pitfalls to avoid whenever you're breaking down the gun, some tips and tricks on how to assemble it a little bit easier. This is good to know. The Glock is a very easy weapon to break down. There's not a lot of parts to it, so it's really easy even for a novice to learn the different parts of it and how to assemble and disassemble. There are some disclaimers that I'll add at the bottom of the video, and I would like to just say that these are just things that I like to do personally. You may or may not agree with it, or you may find some different opinions out there, but this is just what I like to do and what works for me. Alright, so come on. Alright guys, the first thing you want to do is always, whenever you're working on a firearm, is you want to do a safety check. So I'm going to go ahead and release the magazine, and I'm going to place that away from the gun. I am then going to rack the slide back a few times, and then I'm going to lock it in the lock back position, and then I'm going to look down the barrel, and I'm going to manually check to make sure that there's nothing in there. I am then going to continue to rack it, and I know that I have a safe operating gun that I can begin to work on. Alright, the good thing about Glock is there isn't a lot of tools that you're going to need. Tape, Glock tool. Alright, okay, the first thing that we're going to remove is going to be the guide rod. It's going to be this right here. You're just going to push in and pull it out. It's very easy. This is not a factory part. I have replaced this with tungsten steel guide rod. I also have a recoil buffer. This is not going to be factory. The next part is going to be the barrel. It's simple. You just pick it up and remove it. There's no magic trick or anything like that about removing it. The next thing that we're going to do is remove the back plate. As you can see, I have a Punisher back plate on the back of my Glock. This is one of the cool things about Glocks, is a lot of the customizable options that you have, and the back plate is one of these things. When removing the back plate, you want to make sure that you do a couple things, because if you don't, you're going to have the extractor depressor plunger or the firing pin spring fire out. What's happening is there is a lot of tension that is being pressed and applied upwards into the back plate by the extractor depressor plunger and the firing pin. What you'll have to do is press down this little plastic part. This is the spacer sleeve. This is where the firing pin is housed, and you're gonna have to press this down, and then at the same time have pressure on the top of the back plate. You're gonna keep the pressure on the back plate and move it very slowly, but as you do this, you want to keep your thumb covering the back of it, because if not, the extractor depressor plunger will come firing out at you. So what you're going to do is press down on this spacer sleeve and start to move the slide down, and keep your thumb over the top of that. So after the back plate is removed, the next thing that you're going to go do is take out the spacer sleeve and the extractor depressor plungers. This is the extractor depressor plunger. We have the spring loaded bearing, the extractor depressor plunger spring, and the extractor depressor plunger. Here's the firing pin assembly. This is comprised of the firing pin spring, the spacer sleeve, and then right here are two spring cups. These are only held in place by the spring. So these little things are very important that you keep track of, and I'm going to show you a little trick that you can make sure that you keep track of these, because a lot of people who are new to breaking down their Glock do not pay attention, and this spring will cause these little things to shoot out and you'll lose them. It'll take forever to find them. So there's a little trick that I use to easily take these apart, and I'm going to show you that now. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to disassemble this in a way that you don't lose any of the parts, and it's really easy. We're going to take the slide and stand it on its front end, and normally you would have the firing pin go into this channel like this. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it upside down. Make sure that when we insert it in backwards, that we don't put it so that when we compress it, it can still move. We want to pull it and turn it to the side. Now it won't move, okay? You're now going to take one hand and you're going to pull down on the spring. Use your other hand to remove the spring cups individually, okay? Then you can slowly allow the spring to come up. And then you can take the firing pin out of the spacer sleeve and you're finished with that. Here's the firing pin assembly. We have the spring cups, the firing pin spring, spacer sleeve. Go ahead and make sure that you arrange everything so that you can easily find them. And you remember the order that you took everything out. The next thing that we're going to do is remove the extractor and the firing pin safety. All you're going to need to do is press down on the firing pin safety and the extractor will come out. And the firing pin safety. The slide. The sights. These are True Glow night sights. They will appear white during the daytime, but they will begin to glow at night. Now that the slide is disassembled, we're going to move on to the frame. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is start to disassemble the frame. We are going to start by removing the locking block pin. This is where you can use your tape. You can place the gun on top of it so that when you press down on the pins and you're punching them, it will have somewhere to go. So I'm going to go ahead and push down and remove the locking block pin. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the trigger pin. Now this one is the only one that's tricky. When you're pressing this, this is what is holding the slide stop in place, and sometimes it may catch in there, and the last thing you want to do is take your punch and start hammering away at it. What you need to do if it's being stubborn and not moving is move the slide forwards or backwards and it will eventually catch. So as I'm putting some pressure down, I'm going to move the slide back and forth and you'll see it go through. The reason that happens, sometimes you will have the slide stop not in the correct position and it will make it so that you can't remove or install the trigger pin. So all you need to do is move that slide stop back and forth and it will fall through. Imagine if you started hammering on it when it was like this. It would damage the gun. So make sure that you never do that. The next thing we're going to do, now that both the pins are removed, is you're going to take your punch and you're going to place it underneath the locking block. And you're going to use just the side as a fulcrum. And all it's going to take is just a little bit of pressure to get it up. And then it will easily come out. Place that to the side. The slide stop will then come out on its own. Nothing else is holding it in place. The next thing we're going to do is remove the trigger assembly. Okay? Again, we're going to place it on top of the tape. We're going to use our punch. And then right there, that's the trigger housing pin. And you're just going to punch that. And it will easily come out. Once that is removed, the entire trigger assembly will then come out. You have the trigger bar, and the connector. The connector is what allows you to adjust the pound for the pull of the trigger. So the stock is 5.5 pounds. I have a 3.5 pound connector installed, which gives it a little bit of a lighter pull. To install that and to disassemble this, grab the trigger bar, pull back and turn out and lift up. Okay? This is going to allow you to see a spring. I have changed out this spring as well. This allows the return of the trigger to be a little bit more smooth. It's a little bit stronger of a spring. It's a competition spring. And you have the connector right here. In order to change out the connector, all you need to do is flip it on the side. Right here, there's a spot for your punch to go. All you need to do is push in and the connector will come out. Here we have the connector, we have the trigger bar, the trigger safety, we have the trigger spring, and the trigger mechanism housing with the ejector. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the mag release. As you can see, I have a chrome extended mag release. This makes it a little bit easier to release the magazines whenever you're firing and doing quick reloads. Okay? Now, in order to do this, you're going to have to look inside here. I will show you a different angle, but right inside of here is the magazine catch spring and the magazine catch itself. In order to remove this, there is a notch inside of the magazine catch, and you're going to have to take the spring and you're going to have to scoot it over into that notch. As you can see, right here is the spring, and then there's that notch right there. So what you're going to have to do is take this flathead and get it inside that spring, and you're going to push this way until that spring moves from here inside of that notch. Once that spring goes from here into that notch, you'll be able to release it. When doing this, you want to make sure that you're holding on the other side and putting some pressure there, because if not, whenever you try to scoot over the spring, the magazine catch will move with it. So you're going to scoot over the spring, and what's going to happen is the spring's going to pop out. Okay, let's see if I can show you what it looks like now. Alright, as you can see, the spring is now in front of the magazine catch. It used to be in that notch to the right. As you can see, whenever I scooted it over to the side and let the spring fall out of the notch, I had to pop it in front of the magazine catch. So the next thing I need to do is remove these little screws, and then all I'd have to do then is push the slide out. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because I don't really need to, but I just wanted to show you how that is done. Okay? The next thing that you need to do is a slide lock. Okay? That's right here. That is what prevents the slide from moving forward and how you release the slide. When we were removing the slide in the beginning and we were pulling these two levers down, that was a slide lock. In order to remove this, there is a slide lock spring. Once you press that down, the slide lock will then come out. Now, it's very important that you notice that whenever you take this out, how it is put in there. If you look, the slide lock will fit inside of this hole either way that you put it in there. But that doesn't mean that it is supposed to. If you look, there is a lip on one side. So this is the back and this is the front. And you notice how there's that little lip right there? It is imperative, extremely important, that the lip go facing towards the rear of the gun. So it will go in this way as opposed to this way, which would be incorrect and can cause some damage to the gun. Here the Glock is completely disassembled except for the mag release. I didn't take the screws out of there, but it is completely disassembled.